This month, I thought I'd invite you to watch me paint something slightly different. It's a tree and undergrowth painting. There is still an element of the coast there because I am going to put some sea in the background. In fact, I've already done the sky and the sea, and I'll show you that in a second. But this is the photograph that I'm going to base it on. And we will just make a start, and you can see some of the techniques that I use. So here's the picture so far with the sea and the sky in there. So I'm going to start to paint the gaps between the tree. It's going to be almost done in negative, so the tree will look white to start with because I'm going to paint all the gaps. And I'm just going to use some natural colours, some browns and greens and yellows, doing it wet in wet. And then I'm going to put a little bit of cling film on there, and the cling film will just give me a foundation to give me an idea of some rocks, because then once you've got the pattern there, then I can work into those patterns and embellish them and make them look more rock-like. So I'm just putting lots of colours on first. I'm also going to use a bit of scrim, and if you don't know what I mean by that, then you'll need to go back and look at one of my other videos on my arty tips. So I'll put the cling film on first. And you can see the pattern you see is the pattern that you'll get. And then here's the scrim. It just creates like a texture for like plants and twigs and roots. And then also the plastic wallets that you put your A4 documents in, they create quite a nice texture. So I cut them into pieces and I'm just going to squish them down. Can you see they give it like a slightly different texture? And just make sure that I'm happy with that, because as I say, the pattern you see is the pattern that you get. Just move it about a bit and just make sure I'm completely happy with that. And then put another little piece of a plastic wallet on the bottom over the top of the scrim. Now that might not be very definite. I'm going to put a heavy book on now because sometimes I put paint over the top of the scrim as well, but we'll see what it looks like at the end. That's where we're up to. I've done all the gaps and I've put cling film on, and now I'm going to do some roots and the rock face underneath the roots of the tree. So I'm not really doing the roots, I'm doing underneath actually on the cliff face. As you'll see, I'm going to just put some very pale colours. It's just to get some colours down to start with, so you think, well, okay, I know where that's going to go. It'll all be altered. And just some lighter colours. Take bits off if you don't like it all. And then I'm going to put some really dark underneath the roots, and then some more cling film just underneath the roots of the tree. It's all very rough to start with. Just get a little bit of pattern on there. And then this gives you, that you can see the textures of the scrim and the plastic wallets and the cling film. It's beginning to look quite textural. I've worked into some of the rocks, and I'll just show you my view. And if I'm not inspired by this view, I don't know what view would inspire me. Such a beautiful, beautiful day. So it looks a bit weird at the moment. And I've painted that left-hand tree without you. Sorry about that, but I forgot to turn the camera on. And now I'm just taking out all the scruffy bits that have just bled onto this branch, which I'm really not liking the shape of this tree at the moment. It's too fat at the bottom. Not sure about these trunks, but I'm just going to go with it to start with. So I'm going to paint this wet in wet. I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of work in this, and I don't think it's going to be my favourite piece, but I have faith it will be okay in the end. So we'll just keep going so far. Put some different colours in, bits of green, make it slightly darker underneath to create a bit of a three-dimensional feel. And that's where we're up to at the moment. I'm now going to do a little bit of dry brushing, and that's exactly what it says, is like, it's hardly any paint on your brush. It's a really dry brush. The clue is in the title, basically. So I sort of explain it like if it was the texture of the paper was like valleys and hills. The paint's just hitting the tops of the hills and leaving the valleys clear. So you've got to perhaps practice it before you start that, just to make sure you're happy and know how to do it. It takes a bit of practice. So you can see how it's beginning to build up. Lots of work to do, but I really still don't like this branch here. It's just plonked, which bothers me. I might have to get rid of that, but we'll see. Now you see all this foliage here, this green on the photograph. I sort of haven't done that. I've sort of left some of that out. I've not put all of it on, but I quite like this mossy feel. So I might just try and do some of the foliage a different way. As you can see, I've started to put a bit of pastel on here just to see if it will work. You see just 3 little bits. So I could do that afterwards, but we'll see how it goes on. Okay. See, that tree's too fat. I can see that. So I've trimmed it and I've slimmed it down a wee bit. And I've done some wet in wet there. I've done some green bits here, and I've sort of made the edges not quite as straight. So now I'm just going to do a little bit of texture, but in ink and granulation fluid. So I'll just get that ready. And what granulation fluid does, I'm just going to wet the area first. It sort of separates the ink into like little dots. I dribble the granulation fluid through the ink, and it sort of pulls out these little clumps of the ink and separates it into like little dots and creates this quite nice texture. So it's perfect for tree trunks. Now this is the last thing I'm going to do on this picture this month, because to be honest I do have 2 or 3 pictures on the go at the moment. This is just going to have to take a back seat for a while. So I've put a few blobs, I'm moving it around a little bit. And then with the granulation fluid, I've done a little bit on the roots as well, a bit more detail. And I'm just dribbling this through. It might not be very easy to see on the video. It is working. I'll do a little bit more. Just run the granulation fluid through it. Let it dribble through it. And then, I don't know whether you can see, there's like little tiny dots that begin to come out of the ink. It separates. I'm just going to do a little bit more down here. And then that's pretty much as far as I'm going to get this time. But I don't like those tree trunks. I do think there's going to have to be a lot of major surgery on this picture before I'm happy with it. But I've done too much now to stop, so I'm going to have to get it right. It's a bit too overworked, a bit too illustrative for me. But we'll just walk away from it for a while and I'll come back to it and I will show you what I do with it next month. It might just end up in the bin, but let's hope not. So I will see you next time in part 2.